I'll be honest with you, you guys are the only ones that have been willing to have this conversation.
I looked at the criteria, and you have to like have some kind of debilitating.
No. I qualify to call up and use MAID today, right now. All I have to prove is that it's so distressing that I cannot live this way.
But that could apply to almost anything.
Groups of teenagers that were making a suicide pact that once this went into law, they were all gonna walk in together. We paralyze you first, your lungs fill with fluid 2 times the amount, and you drown to death, and it's a death by waterboarding or akin to drowning.
Kelsi, welcome back to the show. It's so good to have you. The first interview we did absolutely crushed. We talked about war and combat and mental health and all sorts of things. But there's actually something you've been talking about lately, which is very close to your heart and is becoming a big talking point around the Western world. Like, I was on Question Time before we came here, and it was a big talking point in the UK, which is assisted dying. Mm-hmm. And you're obviously from the country that's at the forefront of all of this with MAID. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it. First of all, what is MAID and how does it work?
Okay, well, thanks for having me back. Mm-hmm. You never know how things are gonna go. So I was happy it went well. So MAID is medical assistance in dying, but let's call it what it is. It's eugenics. It's not MAID, it's eugenics. And the reason I say that so emphatically is because the statistic around who is using medical assistance in dying versus who is being euthanized are radically different. So the difference is the doctor who does MAID is going to say, Constantine Francis, here's your drug. You have to take it. You can take it at home. You can take it with a doctor, you can take it with a nurse practitioner, but you're ingesting the drugs, okay? So these are the lethal injection drugs. These are the poisons you're gonna put into your body. They're going to burn your mouth, they're going to burn your esophagus, and believe it or not, it's not a painless death. Or, which is being, yes and so what it is that this is medical assistance in dying, this is your drug. What Canada is doing, the rest of the globe is actually doing, is this, going, hi, I'm your doctor, you're sad, you're depressed, you're homeless, you're an addict, you're struggling, give me your arm, I'll kill you. We're killing people, we're euthanizing people, and we're euthanizing people at a pace that matches the eugenics in the 1930s going into 41 to 45.
Well, hold on, I looked at the criteria, and you have to like have some kind of debilitating.
No. That is a false lie that the dying with dignity death cult has propagated across the globe with their $8 million and their lobbying arm of the liberal government. They have been around and have been admitting since 1994 in Senate that they've been killing people illegally. Period, full stop, end of conversation. Let's go back and talk about what this really is. This is a movement to remove the vulnerable, disabled, liabilities, burdens on society, full stop. That's what this is. This is not compassion and care, dying with dignity or empathy. This is let's remove the problems from society. So this is what it looks like. 2016, Canada decided with the Carter versus Canada case, they were going to challenge, there was a woman in British Columbia who was going to challenge the system to say, I want the right to die. Okay, cool. Well, then go kill yourself. Okay, go kill yourself. If that's what you want, that's fine. But when you start to lobby government, you start to change what happens and when the government gets involved with your life. So the reason this is a problem, and Liz Carr from the UK, she did a BBC documentary called Better Off Dead. I got to participate in it and meet her. And she said, Kelsi, I want you to understand why you can't even have a law at all. Because once the law is in place, you don't get to decide what's amended and what walks through it. And this is where we're at now. So 2016, Carter versus Canada happens. They win the case. All that it means is that it changed the criminal code to say that all doctors and nurse practitioners that participate are not liable for murder or homicide. That's all that happened, okay? And this was for track 1 only. Track 1 is specifically designed for the terminally ill, okay? That's it. Terminally ill, you have to have a foreseeable death. That's how like the wording is written. After that, in 2021, they had, again, people like Dying with Dignity lobbied the government again. Now here's your slippery slope. And they said, we're going to introduce track 2. Track 2 is for non-foreseeable death. This is where it gets nasty. So I qualify, by the way. I qualify to call up and use MAID today, right now. Track 2.
Why?
Because of post-traumatic stress disorder, hearing loss, major depressive disorder, and a traumatic brain injury.
Why would that make you qualified?
Because it is considered grievous and irremediable condition. All I have to prove is that it's so distressing that I cannot live this way. Okay? So
but that could apply to almost anything. Like,
he's getting it now.
right.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have some kind of condition that makes your life uncomfortable and can't be changed, that would apply to lots of things. Obesity, for example. Right?
Diabetes, fragility,
Right.
homelessness, addicts.
But is that really happening, Kelsi?
Yes, it's happening in Canada. Quebec right now has the largest death count in the world. The province of Quebec, based on stats, based on their population density, has over 7.3% of its population last year were killed with euthanasia.
7.3%.
Of the Quebec population was killed with euthanasia.
Are you...
Do you see why I've been screaming for 2 years?
With all respect, I find it hard to believe.
Would you like me to show you the stats after?
Well, I'm sure you're right. We will check,
No,
obviously.
for sure, please do. Yeah, please do. So
7.3% of the population.
of Quebec's population in that province.
Right.
So I think it was roughly over 4,800 deaths last year alone in that province, not the country, that province.
Yeah. And do you have some kind of idea of how that breaks down in terms of the types of causes?
I do have the data and I can get it for you, but it does break down provincially. So every year you get a MAID death review per province, okay? And it breaks down whether it's cancer and the type of cancer, but here's where it gets tricky, and this is where they've skated the system. So going back a little bit, and we'll get to that, going back a little bit, what has happened is when you did track 2, that can include people who are not, foreseeable death, right? So again, this opens the door to the mentally ill, to those that are homeless, addicts, yada, 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 yada. But it was supposed to legalize in March of 24 of this year, where it was supposed to include for mental illness only. So we just had this conversation right before.
So let's put a pin in that. What do we mean by mental illness? Are we talking about schizophrenia?
No, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar 2. We just had a lady, her death was scheduled last week. We got it stopped because she had bipolar 2 cycling, and she did not qualify, but she was going to be mated because she was offered euthanasia after the first Zoom call with Dr. Ellen Weeb in Vancouver after she doctor shopped because she could not get qualified in her province.
Right. So she could have been having a manic episode.
She was.
So she was having a manic episode, and so she's not in a fit state of mind to agree to anything.
With multiple suicide attempts as well and hospitalizations on her record. These doctors do not check the medical records, by the way. They do not have to. They are not liable to. All that it states in the criminal code is that they have to say this. I was of the opinion that the patient had an irremediable or grievous condition. That's all they have to say. After that, they are completely legal and allowed to then euthanize.
But that's horrifying, because that's not what the Hippocratic Oath is: do no harm. That's in direct contravention of that.
Well, we're making our healthcare practitioners executioners, and we don't think about the morality, and I've been thinking about this a lot, the morality around what we are asking people who have gone into a system to help and heal. We are now turning them into murderers and killers and people who are advocating for suicide when people are vulnerable. For example, we had a girl in British Columbia last year, June of 2023, walked into Vancouver hospital. She was suicidal. She was concerned for her own safety. She walked herself in, which is by the way, the right thing to do. She was met by the doctors who told her she couldn't see a psychiatrist for 6 months. Okay, 6 months, there was no beds available, no psychiatry. And then she was then sat down while the nurse put her hand on her knee and said, "Have you heard of MAID?" To a vulnerable person who just expressed that she was suicidal, the nurse then offered her to explain to her what medical assistance in dying was. This is like taking
So it's like, you want to kill yourself, we'll help you.
1,000%. Simon's Department Store, for example, a couple of years ago, I started squawking about this online. Simon's Department Store from Quebec, they're just like a clothing home sort of deal. And they decided they were going to run an ad, okay? Did you guys hear about this ad ever?
No.
Oh, it was wild. I know it's so depressing. I apologize. So what they did is they had this lady who, by the way, only was choosing MAID because she couldn't get healthcare in Canada. That was it. Couldn't get healthcare, couldn't get access to treatment. She was in so much pain. They did an ad of her on the beach with cliffs behind her, with bubbles floating in the air, talking about how she was going to cross the Rainbow Bridge and it was going to be beautiful and gorgeous and peaceful. A department store was soft launching with other vulnerable people and young adolescents watching that commercial on TV. Euthanasia. It's the slow drip. It's the frog in the boiling pot. It's now us saying that we will kill you if you're struggling. People like Dying with Dignity and CAMMAP. Let's talk about what CAMMAP is for a second. CAMMAP is the Canadian Association for MAID practitioners. They are the ones that go around and educate doctors on how to not only get your patient qualified, but then to how to do it, the drugs to do it, and how you can escape the system, if you will. Because like I said, going back in March of 2024 was supposed to include children, mature minors, down to the age of 12. Let's pause on that for a second. That's insane. And then mental illness alone.
Mental illness or mental health?
Mental illness.
Because that's one of the distinctions that is really blurred in our society. Because, you know, if you're depressed every now and again, that's mental ill health. Whereas if you have schizophrenia, that's mental illness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's a little tricky, right? Because a lot of times people are they have multiple diagnoses, right? So like for me, when I was in the Army, it was post-traumatic stress. And then last week, I just won my case against Veterans Affairs after suing them for 2 years. And when you look at the reason I won, it's because 11 of the 13 symptoms of TBI and post-traumatic stress overlap. So I was finally able to get the diagnosis of my traumatic brain injury separate from that. So mental illness, PTSD, mental injury, mental health, other things. When we were talking about the fitness component right before, about how important it is to stay moving, how important it is what you put in your mouth, because it is directly responsible for 90% of the serotonin that goes to your brain. When we talk about things like our broken systems, our healthcare, our food systems, no wonder people are on more SSRIs than they ever been, which is serotonin drugs for depression. No wonder they are on all of these other drugs for mood stabilizers. It's because we feed our children garbage. We tell them they don't need to move, and we tell them that it's perfectly okay to sit in front of video games all the time. And then we wonder why they're depressed and want to kill themselves. It's not rocket science. It's just not. So going back to this clause. Okay, so in 2024 in March, it was supposed to include this, and it was supposed to be just that alone. What had happened at that point is we were getting phone calls from group homes in Vancouver and other locations, hearing about groups of teenagers that were making a suicide pact, that once this went into law, they were all going to walk in together. These kids are being manipulated to believe through people like Dying with Dignity's children's books that this is a peaceful situation, that it is wonderful and you are a burden to society, so you should eradicate yourself. They literally have a children's coloring book on their website that talks about how the death is going to happen, what it's going to do, and about the lungs, which I spoke about on Jordan Peterson, which was the mechanism of death that exploded. And it's because we paralyze you first, your lungs fill with fluid 2 times the amount, and you drown to death, and it's a death by waterboarding or akin to drowning. So when people say this is peaceful, that's a lie. And I can tell you why. Because under CAMMAP's statistics and the way that they train their doctors, which is under the BMJ, you guys can find it anywhere. And if you go into the NIH, they have the list of drugs, but it states very, very clearly, this is recommended drugs and recommended dosage, not necessarily the ones that need to be used. That right there leaves the door open for absolutely any drug to be used. We know the amount of propofol they use burns your veins, so you're in excruciating pain, but you don't feel it because the first drug they give you is to calm your anxiety and your fear. That's literally the words that they use. And then the second one is a paralytic, and then the third one shuts everything down. If it shuts everything down, and I say if very aggressively because it is mandatory to have 2 MAID kits for a reason.
So you get a double dose?
No, it's in case it doesn't work the first time. And there has been cases of people who have suffered for up to 31 hours.
Look,
sorry, mate.
No, it's, I mean, it's not fine. It's awful. Kids, how can you justify euthanizing kids?
Well, Quebec is including infanticide for children up to the age of 1 now.
What?
That's what they have there. So the healthcare director, what is it called? It is the physician, the college physicians. I'm not going to say the name of the individual. They have lobbied and stated that they would like to have the right for infanticide for children up to the age of 1 or children that are born with such a debilitating debilitating issue that they then can qualify for medical assistance in dying.
So what do they classify as a debilitating issue?
Well, they seem to think things like Down syndrome are, or what was the other one that I just read? Spina bifida. Somebody just qualified for spina bifida. We also have individuals qualifying for hearing loss, people who are blind. We have individuals.
Wait, hold on. So if you have a blind baby, you can have them euthanized?
They are saying that is that issue going to be an irremediable, grievous condition for that child to grow up in?
So if you feel that your child is blind or deaf and therefore is likely to suffer, you can have them killed.
Quebec is discussing this as their new, this is the College of Physicians.
So this isn't approved yet?
Well, so here's the thing. When you say, is it approved? This is where I get a little cranky about it, because it's not approved to kill people with mental illness, yet we're doing it. And the way they skate the system, and you can look at under BC stats, under the healthcare report last year, under MAID, is the first thing they state is that what is the main issue, right? So here's my example. Constantine, I'm really struggling. I'm really depressed. Okay, but we can't kill you till 2027 because of the mental illness. So let's look at what else is going on. Well, I have to have knee surgery and I'm a runner and I can't run right now. Oh, is that very distressing for you? Yes, I can't live without running. Well, that's your first line item, right? So that's irremediable for me. I need to move. I can't. What's your comorbidity? Underneath, it'll say other. And under British Columbia, it'll say 90%. And when you look up what the definition of other is, depression, fibromyalgia, fragility, diabetes.
At Trigonometry, we value expertise and integrity in everything that we do. That's why we've partnered exclusively with Augusta Precious Metals in America. Having met them personally, it's obvious to me why they're the best in the business. Their expertise and commitment to transparency make them the ideal partner for anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth.
They help people like you protect their savings with gold, a tangible asset that has held its value through every financial storm, ever. With Augusta, it's not just about buying gold. It's about understanding why gold matters. They provide a free, no-strings-attached info kit that explains how diversifying your savings with a gold IRA can help shield your retirement savings from inflation and economic uncertainty. But don't just take our word for it. Augusta Precious Metals has earned thousands of 5-star reviews and holds an A+ rating with the BBB. Their commitment to trust and transparency is second to none, putting customer service above all else.
Don't wait for the next financial crisis to hit, because one is coming sooner or later. Text TRIGGER to 35052 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs and start securing your financial future today.
Once more, that's an SMS to 35052 and simply quote the word TRIGGER, because when it comes to your wealth, preparing for the future is always the smartest investment. But hang on a second. Most people in their life will suffer a severe depressive episode because life is brutal, it's hard, and horrible things happen.
Right.
You can't just, because somebody's having a severe depressive episode, you can't just go, maybe think about killing yourself.
But they are doing that. So why can you say that you can't? Because they are, and they have been for years, and nobody wants to talk about it. They are, and they have. And I have records of people, for example, last night and all last week and the week before that, because I have this merry band of weirdos that we hang out with that are not accepting this anymore. Because every person I surround myself with now, mother has been killed illegally with MAID, like Alicia Duncan. Dr. Christopher Lyon, who's at York University, father was killed with MAID. We have WV and MV, he's currently fighting to keep his autistic daughter from getting killed by MAID in Alberta right now. It's insane. And then we get a phone call, and I mean a cold call, because they found me from Jordan Peterson. So thank you for that, because now a woman is alive because of that show. Genuinely. So we're going to talk about it. It blew up in the media this week. That's why I asked you if you had heard about it. I can't say the names of the people. Obviously, the court case, I can't. This father called my friend Alicia Duncan, whose mother was killed, and said, My wife has akathisia, like Jordan did. She had bipolar, cycling 2. She was on barbiturates and other medications. She's tried to wean off. It has not gone well. We found out she went behind her back and she applied for she doctor shopped and applied for MAID outside of the province because she could not get qualified in our province. Okay. There was 2 Zoom calls. She was approved on the first 60-minute Zoom call with no medical records, with no discussion with her doctors, with no discussion with friends or family, or no discussion to even prove that she had that issue, which, by the way, she has a history of mental health problems. So she got approved. They were flying out last week to British Columbia to Willow Reproductive Health in Vancouver with Ellen Wiebe, and Ellen was supposed to execute her at 7 p.m. on Sunday last week, okay? We got a hold of the family and provided everything we could, and they got an emergency in the 11th hour for the first time in British Columbia, an injunction put in for 30 days to protect this woman from herself. Mm-hmm. This only happened because people are talking now that this is wrong. The reason Ellen Wiebe needs to be investigated immediately, is because as of 2022, and this was in the National Post as well as several other, including Liz Carr's documentary, up to March of 2022, she had killed over 400 people alone. She has stopped saying the number since. That's 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. She does abortions by day and does MAIDs by night. She's even picked her own patients up at the airport, brought them, which is completely unprofessional, brought them to her place in Vancouver, sat them on her couch and killed her herself. And if you can't find a second assessor, she'll find it for you. And she'll do it in 24 hours.
Okay. What you're saying is horrific. It's awful. Let me just talk about this, like the other side of this argument. What do we do with people who are profoundly mentally unwell, who have tried to kill themselves time and time again? And let's be honest about it, they will. And there have always been those people exist. They live in a state of profound mental suffering. Mm-hmm. There are people out there who are going to go, isn't it better that they have MAID than they go and try and hang themselves? Tell me why.
No, because I'm one of those people. Because for a decade of my life, I wanted to kill myself. I planned it. I tried it. I've done all of that. I was told I would never heal from anything that ever happened to me ever at 19 years old. So no, hard stop, no. Every life has value. We have done this conversation in our society where we have begun to devalue humans at a rate and a pace that I cannot wrap my brain around. We have told people that they are not worthy of life, that they are not worthy of living, they're not worthy of working on, that they are not worthy of getting better. Because it is a healthcare burden on the system, because we bring in too many damn people in Canada. We can't see doctors for 24 months. The only reason I got to see a doctor about my knee is because I called my mentor, who called a professional sports team, who called another professional sports team. It's the only reason. Otherwise, I was on a 24-month wait list. We have a broken system, and MAID is a symptom of a sick society and nothing more than that. It is no different than the way that the Nazis went around from 41 to 45, convincing parents and World War I shell shock, post-traumatic stress victims that they should be handed over to the state and euthanized because it was easier to deal with. Because how dare they have to struggle in life? Part of the reason why people who are able to come out of depressive states and injuries and ailments is not because they had some magic support system. It's because they had a will to live. And when you take the will to live off the table, people will start dying and saying, what's the point? What's the point? Why should I try? I have major depressive disorder. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have treatment-resistant depression. I am one of the very few in Canada that has access to special access program for scheduled drugs that are not on the system yet, like psilocybin. One of the reasons why we should never, ever tell anybody that they need to quit is one of the main reasons is we have treatment solutions. We have them. I'm not talking about pharmaceutical intervention. I'm talking about just like the conversation we just had about Peter Attia. Move your body, eat right, get some sleep, turn the fucking news off because it's depressing and it's literally killing you because you are the sum of the 5 sounds, people, anything around you. Anything that goes in and in and in, it will drastically affect this. We have no communities. We have lack of purpose. We have lack of drive. We have lack of want to do anything in their lives. I am not a person I ever thought would be depressed. But there were several times where I lied in bed for weeks. Does that mean I deserve to die because life was hard? No, I went through something hard. So you have the right team, you have the right people, you have the right community, you have other healing modalities. For example, this is another reason. I was in Parliament this weekend speaking on behalf of PsyCan. These are the legal regulators of psychedelics in Canada. Okay, I was part of the clinical trial last year with a synthetic macrodose of psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. Before the government and Health Canada would give me access to mushrooms, they wanted me to do electroshock therapy.
Wow.
That was their answer, and I have it in writing. And I did it at a press conference and spoke about it this week. Canada's solution to depression is SSRIs, electroshock therapy. And if that doesn't work, how about MAID?
I mean, that's awful. They would go from SSRIs,
Yes.
where, let's be fair, the data is murky at best when it comes to their effectiveness.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work, you go to electroshock therapy?
Yeah, they said, so I literally have documents to prove this, because all you have to show for a treatment resistant is that I've tried all of the healing modalities, which I had, all of them. And then I wanted access to regulated psilocybin. Let's be honest, I was going to go get it without him anyway, but I wanted to do it legally. And the first phone call I got was, okay, Kelsi, I know what the answer is going to be on this, but I need to hear you say the words. Health Canada wants you to try electroshock therapy. And I said, well, are they aware I have a traumatic brain injury? And they said, yes. And their answer was, that's okay. She'll be unconscious. So if she throws an epileptic fit, we can control it.
Okay. There are a lot of people who are listening to this who think electroshock therapy is from 1910, 1920.
Yes.
Let's talk about what that means and the impacts of it and the side effects and why they do it.
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I can give you what I know.
Yes, absolutely.
As a coach and a podcaster and a mom and all of that. So electroshock therapy is where they put you under, they put a mouth guard on your mouth, they grab 2 electrodes and they put them on your temples and they shock your brain. And they can't control what parts die. They can't control what parts get affected, but that's what happens. And so part of the problem is when we are treating people with subpar medicine, when we have access to the greatest medicine there is, i.e. plant medicine, MDMA, we've seen the clinical trials coming out with psilocybin and MDMA. It's just unbelievable. And anecdotally, I have been in circles with ayahuasca with grown men who I have seen do a 180 on depressive states and want to be part of their families and their lives. I have seen people go into remission with post-traumatic stress because of plant medicine. There is no reason at all we should be offering MAID ever.
So why is it happening?
It's a cost-saving measure. It's a massive, massive burden on society when you have a lot of people that are sick, a lot of people that are unwell, and you have a lot of individuals right now, because they target veterans first, and we'll get into that. You have a lot of people that cost the government a lot of money, and we got to send that money to Ukraine. Don't you know that? That Canada has just, committed one of the Nazis in government has just admitted, what's her name, Christina Freeland? Just admitted and just said, we're going to give another, a few $100 million per year over to another government when we have the highest opioid epidemic in North America on the east side of Vancouver. We don't want to address that because we decrim there. That makes us money. And then in 2021, just by not providing palliative care and by doing euthanasia instead, they saved $86.9 million in 1 year. So if you look at the stats, so when I was on Pierce Morgan last year, the one thing that caught people's attention was the numbers. So let's just say the numbers. 2021, it was 10,000. 2022 was 13,000. 2024 is 15,241. We have a massive escalation ever since Track 2 has kicked into gear. Okay, let's just put that into perspective. In that same time frame, California, with the same amount of individuals as Canada, has only euthanized 841 people because it was made there. It was me giving you the drug and you taking said drug. Because people don't want to die, man. Because if they did, they would actually go do the thing. They don't want to die. It's a scream for help. It's a please help me, fix me. Something's wrong. I don't know what to do and I don't have the resources. But instead we go, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, here's how we'll do it. Well, you're not track 1, so we can't do it within 24 hours, but you're track 2. So how do we get you to track 1 so we can make it happen faster? Well, we can't advise suicide, but you know what we can advise? Like Stephanie Green does. Oh, stop eating and drinking. Stop eating and drinking. If you stop eating and drinking, guess what happens? Boop, you move to track 1. You can be killed in 24 hours.
So it's a cost-saving measure.
Massive cost-saving measure. I also think there's a more sinister side behind it. When you look at things like Dr. Christopher Lyon's paper that was just published, he's from Canada, he works at York University, and he just did this incredible paper called On Healthcare Serial Killers. That's a real thing, man. Because the way that Canada works, ready for this? MAID and euthanasia is a self-reporting system with no safeguards. Meaning, Constantine, you're a nurse. You go to a bunch of hospitals, you qualify people for euthanasia, and you do it, okay? Say you do a lot of them. Say you do too many of them. I don't know, Ellen Wiebe, for example. And then you go, I'm gonna go work somewhere else. They don't get to see any of that. They don't get to know about that. It's a self-reporting system. So it's also a self-reporting system when you provide the documents to the coroner's office report, which means when we look at the stats and we go, this many people have been euthanized, but this many MAID kits have been prescribed. Why are the numbers off, guys? Why are they off by a lot? So many, actually. And then you look at the United States, 10 states in one jurisdiction. 10 states in one jurisdiction, and right now, all across the country, in those states, they are voting to expand euthanasia and MAID in America, and nobody has a clue. New Jersey just cracked over 100 deaths in a year. What? Anybody paying attention to that? They are qualifying people who do not qualify. And they are doing it at a pace that is terrifying. And that's why when you look at things like healthcare serial killers, that's a real reality. We're here now. We're super here. And so it's cost saving. You also have a percentage of the population that are genuine psychopaths. I'm not using that word to be facetious. I'm using it in the genuine, like, narcissistic psychopaths. You've got the people who don't want to see people suffer. So it's like the mercy killing, right? It's like this baby was suffering, so we'll just use that. Or the grandma or the grandpa was. But then you have the people like us who are in our age group who are going through hard things, who are just really, really depressed. So we find other comorbidities to make sure they qualify. And if you don't qualify, well, just stop eating or drinking.
Because in medicine, there's always existed that thing of like, we know this person is dying. We're just going to make it a little bit easier.
That's the double blind. That's different.
Okay, explain that.
So Dr. Joel Zivit was the testimony I gave on Peterson, and he's the anesthesiologist from Emory State University. He's also Canadian, but he's also the head of the critical care over there, and he's one of the best anesthesiologists you've got. He's the one that discovered with the Freedom of Information Act, with the NPR, he discovered the largest autopsy report and was the one that discover the heavy lungs and what it was doing to the lungs. You go into a pulmonary edemic state and you drown in your own fluids. And that's why patients and individuals would say, I heard grandma gargling. Grandma was drowning in her own body with a paralytic, so she looked peaceful. So you just watched essentially waterboarding. So enjoy that for the rest of your life. So we are doing these things to people, and we are justifying it in a way that is insane. And so when we say that, say what you want, repeat what you wanted me to say there. The other question you had.
So doctors helping people.
Yeah, so the double blind. So sorry, Joel was saying to me, look, the double blind works like this. Somebody comes in, I see that they are suffering.
Yeah.
They are terminally ill, they're going to pass. He goes, I have to see that the individual is uncomfortable, right? And at a certain point, their lungs and their heart rate are going to be this. And in order for me to keep them comfortable, I'm going to have to increase the medication. He has to then have the conversation with the family that if I increase this medication, the chances of this happening and their heart rate slowing and all of that go down, which means, and then the heart will probably stop. And this is the conversation I had with Peter Attia's wife, right? Why can't we just use potassium chloride? Why can't we just stop the heart? Why do we have to use all of these other drugs that burn the system and do these things? Why? This is ridiculous. Well, it makes people a lot of money, like Pfizer. So when you do the double blind, there's just the conversation that happens. That's not MAID or euthanasia. That's I'm providing pain relief, which at some point will then lower the blood pressure and stop that. That's a different thing than euthanasia and MAID. Euthanasia is, okay, here's my scheduled time. I'm going to go walk into the office. I'm going to sit in the chair. You're going to hook my IV up and you're going to push the drugs.
Wow. So what do we do with those people, for instance, like my comedy hero, Robin Williams, who was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, an awful, terrible illness. People who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, who know that they are going to fade away until they become an unrecognizable version of themselves, who is going to be dependent on their family and a drain on their family. and will say, and I completely understand this, I don't want to go out like that. The moment I stop being me, that's it, I'm done, I'm tapping out. What do we do with people like that?
Better palliative care. Palliative care has to increase. The governments do not fund palliative care. If anything, they actually shut them down. Delta Hospice Society in British Columbia was forced out by the government because they refused to do MAID in their facility. They wanted you to be able to die a natural death. The government does not provide funding for palliative care. Furthermore, people like Dying with Dignity have now lobbied in the government for all the individuals who have the Catholic institutions that have religious exemption. They're lobbying to remove that. There is no place in Canada where you will not be euthanized. Palliative care is a 50-year medical science that keeps people comfortable and keeps them in a state where they can live out their natural life and death.
Well, that's a very idealized version of palliative care. It's not necessarily available for everybody. Some people have pain that cannot be controlled medically. Some people, as Francis says, are not really themselves anymore. I'll be honest with you, I can envisage circumstances in which I would want that option to be available to me. I can envisage circumstances in which I would want that option to be available to people that I love. So do you think that should never be available under any circumstances?
So here's where the line kind of gets a little blurred, right? Because being somebody who has a traumatic brain injury, I have a 30% higher chance of early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. Like, I know that. I'm consciously aware of that. And I am of the belief that once I check out, nobody needs to be around this. We have a hard enough time now.
Yeah.
So I am a big believer in that. And I do understand. The mechanism of death is horrific and we are doing it wrong. Let's start with that.
Sure.
We're drowning people to death in their own fluids while their loved ones watch and think it's peaceful. That's not acceptable behavior in any way, shape, or form. We don't even do that to our dogs. And then you come into the morality issue around this, right? What do we do for these individuals? Well, it's a hard one because when you start to allow the government to control your body, the government will inevitably abuse the system. And that's what we're seeing right now. So I would like to say that we should be able to do this for individuals who truly need it. But Canada doesn't use euthanasia as a last resort, like the Netherlands or Belgium. They use it as a treatment option.
Yeah.
We'll get you back to the interview in a minute, but first. That, my friends, is the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. I know that building a business takes work. Look at my face, I'm exhausted. But the lovely thing about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify is with you every step of the way. Shopify is a commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're selling handmade jewelry, art prints, or podcast merch like us, buy our merch, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can successfully grow your business. Shopify even gets you selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. TikTok just makes me angry, I'm too old. So, if you're ready to get serious about selling, sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/trigger. Go to shopify.co.uk/trigger. And one more time for luck. That's shopify.co.uk/trigger. And now, back to the interview.
Do you think this is inevitable because all over the world now you see this healthcare costs are skyrocketing? We've got an aging population, we've got a more obese population. There's all sorts of other things going on. The longer people live, basically, you end up in a position where you have older people who, in their last few years of their life, the healthcare costs are like 10 times what they were their entire life before that. And also, economically, the situation is countries are in massive levels of debt. In the UK, the healthcare system is not coping. It's just not coping, right?
Yeah.
Likewise, I think in Canada too.
Very similar, yeah.
Do you think this is why this stuff is actually really happening? It's like we just can't afford to look after people. Is the mindset of government?
I think it's a portion for sure. Of course, it's going to be. I think one of the answers to it, and this may seem like a very simplistic answer, but I think at the core of the the issue is stop funding fucking wars. Am I wrong?
You are actually, yeah.
Okay, so explain to me, because we're spending billions of dollars on ammunition, weapon systems to go other places. We're not looking after our own people, keeping our money in the country. We're not doing a damn thing about it. And then we're overtaxing people till it breaks them, because we're not killing. That's the thing in Canada. We're not killing people that need it. We're killing the homeless because they can't afford to live. We're killing the addicts because we're giving them the drugs and vending machines outside of Toronto Hospital with crack pipes in it.
Sure, but that's a different issue. I think what I mean about war is simply this, that if you know, Thomas Sowell has this great way of thinking about things, which is, it's kind of the bedrock of the conservative worldview, really, which is, if you want to think about what's likely to happen in the future, you have to look at the past.
Right.
There has never been a time in human history where there hasn't been war. It's just an unavoidable reality of human existence, right? So when you say funding war, big states always are going to assert their interest around the world, and part of that is going to be muscular, right? It's going to be physical. The moment you stop doing that, other people who are prepared to do that will dominate the world. So you can't really escape.
For sure.
You know that, right?
No, I understand that concept, but the concept, the idea around sending hundreds of billions of dollars outside of the country that's already in debt. I'm talking about Canada. I'm not talking about the United States. The United States is its own ballgame. Canada follows that. It's coattails everywhere we go, like everywhere else. So I'm talking about Canada. I'm talking about foreign interference. I'm talking about taking money and putting it in other places we have no business being. We don't have people there. Why are we sending it there? We don't have any foreign interest there. Why are we sending it there?
Well, it depends which conflict you're talking about. I mean, look.
Well, that's my point.
Well,
we're funding everything.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think if you look at the two big conflicts that are happening in the world now, Israel and Ukraine, if Canada wants to be part of Pax Americana, which it does, right? It's the same with Europeans. You know, we had Nick Freitas on the show, and he talked about this. He was like, look, if you want to go and defend European interests in Eastern Europe, you need to stump up the cash.
Right.
Right? That's, to me, the issue. But ultimately, you know, this is what actually Europe has done for a long time now, and Canada to some extent too, is like you operate under the American security umbrella. And if you want the security and the influence and the wealth and the power that comes with that, you're going to have to do stuff when it's necessary. It's unavoidable, right? I don't see a way out of it. Now, you fought in war, and so your opinion matters way more than mine. I respect your opinion way more than I respect my own on this. I'm just putting the counter argument to you. Of course. Which is that this idea that you can be the dominant civilization in the world and never go to war or never fund other countries that want to be part of that umbrella to defend themselves, that's not really how it works.
I don't disagree with that. I'm not going to argue that point at all. I think you're accurate on that. But I think when you start funding things like tampons in the men's bathroom and DEI programs, well then, but that's my point.
Yeah. But that's not a foreign war thing. It's the woke mental shit.
But the woke mental shit expands out into the war because that's where our troops are being trained, and they're taking all of that ideology and that funding and they're going into those wars when all of that money that didn't need to go into those programs and hiring all those people to go teach them about how not to call somebody a retard. You mean all of that funding couldn't have gone to a healthcare system that's broken?
Yeah, but that's something we totally agree on.
So maybe the war was the wrong term. Maybe stop funding things outside of the country that don't need to be funded when the priorities need to be in the nations.
Well, I think that is something that's very widely shared actually around the Western world, which is the idea that we seem to be prioritizing things other than the citizens of our own country.
1000%. So maybe that was a wrong choice of words on my part, but do you understand what I'm saying is we are funding things right now where even if we took 0.5% that we are allocating to weapon systems, to ammunition, which again, Canada has none of anyway, they're all completely gone. And there was a new documentary I was just in called Forsaken Warriors, where it breaks down the fall of the Canadian military. I highly encourage you watch it. It shows you where all of these funds are being allocated. For God's sakes, we just gave, somewhere around like $50 million to the Chinese. Canada's doing some really weird stuff where that 50 million could have gone to a palliative care facility. And I don't know, maybe not MAID House beside Toronto Hospital, which is only designated for euthanasia.
Yeah.
We're building facilities to only kill people in.
Well, I don't know about Canada, but I hear the same argument being made here in the US. And I find it somewhat inaccurate. People go, well, you know, we've got homeless people in the street, but we can afford to send money to Ukraine. And it's like the homeless people in the street thing, it has nothing to do with money. It has literally zero to do with money. And it's all about ideology. It's about the fact that they decided to close all the mental hospitals down because they thought that this is liberation.
Right.
This is about freedom, right? People who can't exist on their own, living on the street and injecting, smoking fentanyl or whatever, that's freedom.
Right.
It's an ideological issue.
Right.
If we actually were prepared to deal with the reality of it, which is some people can't function without help,
Exactly.
then you wouldn't have homeless people on the street. And it's not about money because they actually cost more money when they're on the street. If you look at the crime and the disorder and all of the things that happen when you have a society that increasingly feels like it's breaking down. Wealthy people leave. Entrepreneurs leave, they go to other places, and that state doesn't generate as much tax revenue. If you add all of that together, I think Joe had the mayor of Austin on the show a while back, and they talked about this. Like, the average homeless person costs the state like a shit ton of money every year. And my point being, a lot of these things that people like to pretend are a money issue, they do that because that's easier. It's not a money issue. It's a much worse issue. It's an ideology issue.
And so we have that problem in Vancouver, right?
I bet you do.
So we emptied Riverview. We emptied all of the psych wards and we put them on the streets.
Right.
And then we decriminalized drugs. And that's why you have the East Side the way it is.
And then people are self-medicating to try and cope with whatever is going on for them using these very hardcore drugs. As, by the way, a lot of people would in that situation.
Wouldn't you if you had
Totally.
the reality that you were living in a tent on the East Side and the chances of you getting raped or murdered are pretty sky high? I mean, we have a funding allocation problem because our governments are overspending. That's for sure. And you could look at whether that's with the schooling system, with the military industrial complex, whether that's with the healthcare system, you can look across the board. But you can't tell me that the CEO of CBC getting a few $100,000 bonus per year is justified. We are doing things where we can say, well, you know, we can send money. We can say, no. The fact of the matter is we're spending money on things that are not helping anybody, are just lining pockets of individuals who have no business having that type of money when the system is breaking down anyway. And then we're going, oh, but we need you to donate because we need you to go help this person because they're an addict or they're homeless. No, dude, you have the money. You have it. You're not allocating it. And I'll tell you right now, I just sat in government this week having this exact conversation. And it was very weird being in a Liberal Party room. It was very strange for me. I can't say I was even allowed in. But I sat down and we said, we want to bring this bill forward to force Veterans Affairs to pay for psychedelic-assisted therapy for veterans because we see how much it's healing people. And when you heal people that have actually been trained on how to uplift themselves, to be better entrepreneurs, to help society in general, we should be putting into that. And their response was, well, you can put the bill forward. It's got to be read 5 times. And once it's read, and in the first time, if it's not shut down, then you move to the second round and it's a lottery. They said maybe a year and a half. I said, okay, well, I said, to be transparent with you, I'm going to give you a stat right now that probably will mean nothing to you. But with the 44 a day of people killing themselves in America or dying by suicide, whichever one you want to say, that's 16,000 more people, fathers and mothers, that will not be here to look after their children because they took their own lives because you wouldn't let them get access to a mushroom. So you can't sit there and say that the solutions are necessarily, I get it, you can't just say that's a money allocation issue, but it definitely goes a little bit deeper to why are we so okay with funding high doses of pharmaceutical intervention for veterans to be vending machines for pharmaceutical companies to be making ungodly amounts of money, but we're not willing to give them access to psilocybin. I'll tell you why. This thing fixes you. This thing keeps you dependent. So there are ways to fix the society so that euthanasia doesn't even have to be an option, at least for the people that don't need it, for the mentally ill, children down to the age of 12, infanticide, for God's sakes. We should never be telling somebody, you're deaf, life's gonna suck. I wear 2 hearing aids. You'll be fine. There's school for deaf. There's school for blind. There are children who are autistic that are thriving. There are children who have Down syndrome that are killing it. Why are we telling people that they should die instead of live? Canada is so quick, and I mean quick, to say to you, just die. It is literally a treatment solution in Canada, whereas, like I said, the Netherlands, Belgium, it is a last resort. You have to prove that you have tried everything. But the other thing that we have to look at is, if we are telling people to just quit, then what's the point of science? What's the point of trying to further medical care and science? Why should we be getting more care for cancers? Why? We're just going to MAID you anyway. Do you get my point? What's the research? Because we're going to tell you to quit. So what's the point of putting into research? What's the point? I don't understand.
How much of this is to do with ideology, Kelsi?
Oh, of course it's to do with ideology. When you have individuals who hate their own lives, who are sick, overweight, and unhealthy with no children, and they just are not happy with the world, and then you put them in places of power who educate other doctors on what they should be telling their somewhat healthy patients, of course it's ideology, because these are the same people that say that if I call you the wrong pronoun with the new Bill 63, I should be going to prison for life. These are the same people that say that me sitting on this show right now and the things that I've just said are hate speech. So we have to look at it from ideology, morality, from the financial burden on the system. We have to look at the whole encompassing issue. And what I can tell you is that having been dropped into this because Veterans Affairs started offering euthanasia when people were asking for help, is that the system is broken to the point in which we have individuals who are very unwell making the calls. And when you put people in places of power who are uneducated, who are mentally unwell themselves, who are unhappy with their own lives, you get, like we talked about this before, you get the trickle-down effect. Mm-hmm. This ideology of death over a life is something I refuse to accept, because my son will be 12 in a few years. And if he walks into a hospital in British Columbia or anywhere else in Canada and says, I would like to die, I will then have to spend my entire life savings plus more and fundraise to keep him out of the hands of people like Ellen Wiebe.
We'll get you back to the interview in a minute. But first, let me recommend an incredible alternative to coffee that will give you that all-day energy without the jitters in a delicious hot drink. Mud water is made with 4 functional mushrooms. Don't make things out of dysfunctional mushrooms. And only a fraction of the caffeine you'll find in a cup of coffee, so you'll get that natural energy without the crash. Each ingredient was added for a purpose. Cacao and chai for a hint of caffeine and hot chocolate-like flavour, lion's mane for focus, cordyceps to promote natural energy, and both chaga and reishi to support a healthy immune system. It's quality stuff and tastes like cacao and chai had a baby. Why you'd want to drink a baby is anyone's guess, but there we are. Plus, it's Whole30 approved, 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan and kosher. So not only does it taste great, you can also give it to your woke mates.
Ready to make the switch? Head to mudwater.com and grab your starter kit today. Right now, our listeners get an exclusive deal, up to 43% off your entire order, plus free shipping and a free rechargeable frother when you use the code TRIG. That's TRIG. That's right, up to 43% off with the code TRIG at mudwtr.com.
You know, what we've been talking about is so awful, but one of the things that makes me hopeful is that the more we talk about it, the more we can change it, the more we can fight back. So let's talk about hope now.
Please.
Look, what are the green shoots do you see, and what are the things that people are doing to push back on this?
Yeah, we're pushing, man. We're pushing really hard, really quietly, though, in a way that where it's making the actual difference, meaning we come out and we talk about it on shows like this. Like, I'll be honest with you, you guys are the only ones that have been willing to have this conversation. I told you this last year. I said, this is so heavy and so dark, and I understand the weight and the burden, and that's why I intentionally didn't wear black today. That's why I intentionally changed my nail color. That's why I intentionally tried my best to be somewhat so that you can receive what I'm saying. Because what I'm saying is if it's not you yet, it will touch someone you know. And when it does, you're going to call us and go, how do we fix it? So there is hope. There's so much hope. If we look at where psychedelics are right now and the movements across the globe and the research we have behind healing the neuroplasticity in our brains and rewiring and firing our frontal lobes, we can heal from things like depression. We can heal from these issues. We need to start looking at things like our community. We need to start looking at things like people's lack of purpose in this world. When you remove someone's lack of purpose, everything else falls to the wayside.
100%.
When you remove people's access to community and support and the family unit, which is a whole other thing being attacked right now, which is the family unit. The darkness says, you don't need family, you don't need kids, you don't need this, you don't need to own anything, and you'll be happy. We have to reinvest in our community and our neighbors and our loved ones and say, it's okay if you're having a hard time. I've got you. You don't need to choose death. We are here to hold you and support you. The same way a lot of indigenous communities look at plant medicine, they don't take that person that's sick and go put them out somewhere else and say, too bad, deal with yourself. That's what Western medicine does. We need to go back to the way that we did it, where we grab those people and we surround them and say, you smash off all the walls around us. We've got you. So there is hope. You've got medicine that is changing, and science is getting so invested in the idea of using old school plant modalities to bring into pharmaceutical, to give access to others. So if people say, well, plant medicine is woo-woo. Okay, cool. But MDMA, ketamine therapy, which I still don't love, but MDMA, ketamine, psilocybin, ayahuasca, 5-MeO. We have solutions on the table. We're just now in the process of all the research with like Imperial School of London and Harvard and all these amazing places. Then you have the nonprofits like Heroic Hearts Project and all of these other people who are saying, here's the science, here's the research. They're lobbying in government like PsyCan and APACS like I did this week. And we're saying, we have the research, guys. There are ways to heal people. Now, when you're talking about other things like dementia and Alzheimer's, we understand things like diet change early because it starts in your 30s and 40s. It doesn't start later. Looking at your diet, looking at our food pyramid system and saying, these foods right here are the things that are causing long-term health. So we have to look deeper to the root of the issue. Like Good Energy was such a great book around this, and it spurred such a change. What we feed our children will radically affect the next 20 and 30 years of their lives. And we have a real chance here to help heal the world. If we start looking at movement as a priority in our school systems, we start looking at diet as a priority in our school systems, our community that we have around us, our purpose and what we need to drive individuals to and what we can fix if we just give them the tools to do so. We need to stop telling children they're stupid because they can't sit still and medicating them. And we need to start giving them time to run and to grow and putting them in programs where they can actually flourish and thrive where they deserve to be in the first place. There is so much hope. And I don't mean this to be like, meh, meh, but I'm an example of that. Mm-hmm. I am the walking, talking, very much too much for you, I know, talking example of this. You can heal from these things, but you have to be willing to try. And furthermore, we have to be willing to give solutions that are not euthanasia, and we can do so. But when Veterans Affairs is targeting veterans and going after them in Canada, when we're telling the systems and telling the individuals within that they should die instead of trying to live, this is where we're going to be until we wake everyone up and say that these pro-death organizations are not healthy, that they are corrupt, and that they are going to come for your children, as aggressive as that sounds, but they are, and it's provable. And everything I've said here has a receipt attached to it, including the individuals I've spoken about, the organizations I've said, and the statistics as well. None of this is out of pocket. Everything is heavily researched. And if you just take 2.5 seconds and Google more than MAID deaths, and you actually look province by province, country by country, you will see that we are headed for something very scary. But we don't have to be. That's the other thing. We just have to wake the fuck up.
So when I mentioned right at the beginning that when I was on Question Time, this issue came up because there's a bill in the UK that's being discussed. And we don't know the details of it yet. Yeah. But one of the things I brought up MAID, and I was like, from what I hear, it's not a good thing, and way too many people are being euthanized, as you say, in this way. And Fiona Bruce is actually a very good journalist in MAID. She was like, yeah, but Constantine, I don't know if you know this, it's very, very popular in Canada. It has, enjoys extremely wide support in the country. Is that true?
Do you know why? Do you know why that is?
Well, my hypothesis would be killing off people who cost loads of money and just cause problems is probably quite popular with the rest of the population because it's kind of a practical solution to a difficult problem, but it's not necessarily the moral thing to do.
Well, it's because the polls, I made sure to look it up yesterday, but the polls that are being brought forward and saying Canadians are, we're right for this, are actually heavily funded by the Dying with Dignity organization. And by funded, I mean the individuals that are running the polls are actually the people that run that organization.
But do you think they misrepresent reality? Do you think?
Oh my gosh, yes, they are completely delusional. Delusional. Because I'm about to go on the street with Alicia Duncan, whose mother was killed with it, which, by the way, she was a psych nurse with no prior history of mental health, who got in a car accident, had a traumatic brain injury, and then tried to kill herself a couple months later. 2 days later, they made it her. At the same hospital she used to run. So, no, people are not for this. People don't even know what's happening. People are very, very unaware. And I'll tell you why they're unaware. It's because we keep using the word MAID. Because the percentage of people who actually use MAID.
It's like BLM. It's like exactly, when you're talking about it, that organization with Dying with Dignity, it's exactly like BLM.
Yeah.
It sounds great. Who's against Black Lives Mattering or Dying with Dignity? No
Who's
one.
against compassion and empathy, Constantine? Right. Who's against it? Of course you wouldn't be against it. But it is exactly what BLM is. It's a smokescreen. It's a fraud. It's a group of individuals who literally spend, and this was what I said on one of my clips the other day, they spend every waking minute of their existence trying to kill as many people as possible. They take their children on vacations based on money. They write books, by the way, this is insane. They write books talking about every patient that they've killed and then do interviews where they smile and laugh in Liz Carr's documentary saying it's the most beautiful work they've ever done in their life and that it is it's soul releasing and it's beautiful, it's happy and it's euphoric. It's euphoric to kill someone. I'm sorry, I've been on the other end of that. It's not euphoric. It's not to watch somebody's lights go out. That's horrific to say. And furthermore, when comments come out of the top executioners in the country and say things like this, our biggest problem is not the system. We know how to work it. It's the families involved. You mean the families that are trying to protect them from the darkness that is you? That's not acceptable. We have a ton of hope, but we have organizations like this that have $8 million. They get over $500,000 from the Liberal government every year. They're a charitable status. There's organizations like this all across the globe, and they all have charitable status, and they are twisting the message because they have the voice. Mm-hmm. And the reason I took this up, because I have really no business doing this. I don't. You guys know what I do for a living. Like, do I feel like I need to be a talking head for this? No, but I am, because they started targeting my friends. And if you're targeting veterans, we know what happens when you start targeting veterans, because then you go for the mentally ill, then the vulnerable population, then the kids, then the homeless, then the addicts, and it's a slippery slope. And that is what's happening. And that's why all of a sudden you're hearing it on every major podcast across the globe, even though it's comedians talking about it, we're hearing it. I don't care who talks about it. Just keep talking. Because I cannot be the only one in Canada screaming at the top of my lungs about this. Because number one, people like you have to deal with me banging on your phone saying, please let me talk about this. But also, if we keep allowing this to stay in the dark, that's where it grows. Mm-hmm. We have to shine the light on these things so that we can remove this disgusting narrative that is just not factual. It is very painful to die. It is not peaceful. It is horrific. Your families can never fill the gap that you will leave. They will forever be attached to the idea that they had to fight for you and they couldn't. They will feel helpless. They will feel hopeless, and they will feel like they never did enough, and they will have survivor's guilt the rest of their life. You can heal from the things that they are killing people for. I have done it. I am a witness to it, and I am an example of it. MAID, euthanasia, whatever you want to call it. I call it state-sponsored murder because that's what it is. We have executioners, not doctors. We are turning healthcare practitioners who went into the practice to help people. We are turning them into everyday serial killers. And there is a moral issue to that those doctors, those family members were not ready, not trained to handle at all. We are turning our society into a group of killers. And then we're wondering why people are struggling. Maybe stop killing people. Maybe give people better food. Maybe give people a community. Maybe give people a reason to live. And then maybe they will actually stay with us.
Kelsi, it's been a wonderful interview. It has.
Okay.
It has. It's an important interview. It's important that we talk about this and that we share, and that we're honest about these problems, because otherwise, if you don't bring them to the light, they will continue to fester in the dark and they will get worse, and more people will be affected by it. So thank you for coming on the show. The final question we always ask is, what's the one thing we're not talking about that we really should be?
The 3 new traitors that are in the Canadian government that we have uncovered that have been taking money from a foreign government to influence our elections came out this week.
So, explain.
I can't. They haven't given us enough information yet. The Trudeau government.
By the time this comes out, we may know more.
Yeah.
And we will know more. But right now there is 3. They're all directly tied to the CCP. And it is not looking great.
There you go. Head on over to Substack to hear Kelsi answer your questions. Click the link in the description. Head to our Substack to see this.
The UK is debating passing an assisted dying bill. What should they learn from Canada?
What will Canada's relationship with the US be like? If Trump wins and if Kamala wins, what will be the effect? If there was a way to really keep it very much about track one, wouldn't that be reasonable?